Invite my friend Sheshadri Chari. Sheshadri, I'd like you to tell us what went wrong. BJP was so super confident of getting 370 seats or even going 400 par. But what was remarkable was the BJP wasn't after till the first round they were talking about their achievements. After the first round, the election turned. You suddenly had Mr. Modi spouting base communal rhetoric against Muslims, infiltrators, चार बच्चे इनके होते हैं, मंगलसूत्र ले जाएंगे तुम्हारा. And then his whole campaign declined as he searched for a national narrative, and finally he started saying, I'm a divine agent. So what really happened? What went wrong for the BJP?
Bharat, I told you about the two anomalies. Number one, when you asked me to come here, I said, you are like asking the wrong person to speak because I don't belong to the BJP.
I know that, but you are a very good analyst and I trust your analysis. You may not be able to tell the entire truth, but I know you'll sail quite close to it.
So you want me to really analyze something that is very funny, because when you say BJP lost, the BJP is forming a government right now. So I don't know why we are asking about why BJP lost. I mean, it is the Congress which should be asking itself why we lost in 14 states. There are 14 states: Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Tripura, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Daman, Diu, and Andaman Nicobar Islands. All these 14 states, the Congress is zero.
There are 10 where BJP is zero, so let's not go in that direction.
And then Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Odisha, West Bengal, BJP is just one seat. So nobody is asking me to explain why the Congress lost in all these states. But you are asking me why they lost, I don't know, from 303 they have come to 240. So that is reduction of 92 seats, and they have gained 32 seats, new 32 seats. Anyway, so I said that is one anomaly why, I don't know what I am supposed to explain. The second thing is, I feel that this particular election, I have written about it also to a number of places. This is probably one election, maybe there could have been some other elections before this also, which is an issueless election. There was no issue in this election, neither from the BJP side nor from the opposition side. The BJP said, ab ki baar 400 par. And the Congress said, आप 400 par कैसे जाएंगे, हम देख लेंगे. Was it the issue? BJP never explained what they will do after. Of course, the Prime Minister said कि अगला 100 दिन का agenda मेरे पास तैयार है. But the Congress never asked, what is your agenda for the next 100 days, explain. And the BJP never asked the Congress कि आप चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं तो क्यों लड़ रहे हैं? What is your alternate narrative? You are saying we are going to do this. You said the first two phases of elections. If you see the first phase of election and the second phase of election, in the first phase of election, if you correlate, juxtapose it to the number of seats that the BJP and Congress have got, in the first phase of election, the BJP has got 30 seats and the Congress has got 29 seats. In the second, the BJP has got something like 24 seats and the Congress has got 19 seats. So the Congress was doing very well in the first and the second phase. When I say Congress, the Gadbandhan, Congress-led Gadbandhan, or whatever you may call it. And the NDA, mainly the BJP, this was the situation. Had the election gone this way, it could have probably been a much better result for the India Alliance and much worse for the BJP, probably. Some people who are experts in statistical analysis can do this analysis further. But suddenly the whole thing changed. The Congress started telling that if BJP comes to power, they will amend the constitution, they will change the constitution, they will throw the constitution out. I don't know where the BJP said it. Nowhere. Not in their manifesto, not in their speeches, nowhere. But then it happened. They used to say once, long back, of course, I should admit that I was organizing secretary, or what we call the Sangathan Mantri of BJP. And we were, Pramod Mahajan and myself, we were all working together in Maharashtra and also for national politics. So that time, in one of the speeches, Pramod Mahajan said कि ये शरद पवार जी का जो है, उनका सब अंडरवर्ल्ड डॉन से संबंध है. तो ऐसे प्रमोद जी आप ऐसे कैसे बोलते हैं? तो अगर कल वो प्रूफ मांगेंगे तो he said, ऐसा है शेषाद्री, कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं, आप उन पर कोई भी आरोप लगाएंगे तो चिपक जाता है. I still remember this. So sometimes it happens. And then you say the Dalit voters have gone away from the BJP, but the same Dalit voters in Madhya Pradesh has given total number of seats to BJP. And the Dalit leader of Haryana, who was the Congress president of that state, quit BJP, Congress and joined BJP. So, I mean, there is not a single pattern in this election. You cannot say that this one factor has gone in favor of BJP, or this one particular factor has not gone in favor of. I mean, something like a post-emergency election, where there was a pattern. There was a undercurrent against Mrs. Indira Gandhi, which she did not unfortunately gauge properly, and which even some of the opposition parties did not. I was in jail during emergency, and when after we came out, we started working. The elections were declared, but before the elections were declared, some of us were released, and I was one of them. And I mean, we used to question our leaders. We used to tell them, why are we participating in election? We may lose, because Indira Gandhi has all the powers in the world. So it will be a very risky election, and if you lose, we are not going to come out of the jail forever in our life. But it happened the other way. Even we failed in gauging the undercurrent, and that could have been a case in some states now. Now coming specifically to some of the two issues, I'm not saying that it's for the BJP to sit and analyze why the number of seats have gone down, but there are mainly 4 states. One is UP, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Haryana, where the BJP seats have gone down drastically. Haryana, 10 out of 10 they got last time, now they got 5. Maharashtra, of course, has been very bad. And every states have certain reasons. Rajasthan, of course, where they won, just 6 months back they won the election and defeated Congress. And within 6 months, why the voter fatigue? Why did the voter not vote for the BJP, for the same voters who voted for the BJP just 6 months back? That is what something, in fact, I have written about this piece also, in fact, this one. Haryana, even before the elections, we had a round of Haryana, and we had some inputs from Haryana, and as a peripheral supporter, you can say, not as a party worker or a member. I am not even a member of the National Executive Committee of the BJP anymore. But I did pass on this message to people, why there are some problems in Haryana. And if you don't attend to those problems, we will lose some seats. This is what we got. Okay. UP, of course, is a very big loss for us. And I still feel that the one mistake that the BJP made was dismissing the BSP as a spent force. Now, BSP had 9 seats in 2019, and this time they lost all 9 seats. But this factor, probably, the BJP should not have kept BSP out, and they should have not, commented that it's a spent force, so there is no need for BSP. Probably they should have aligned with BSP. As far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, I still feel that we could have probably given a better role to AIDMK. But the strategy of the BJP was that instead of creating two power centers, one DMK and one ADMK, and in the coming assembly elections, we have to fight with two. Either we go with DMK or we go with AIDMK, always in Tamil Nadu. So this time we will fight the elections without these two Dravidian parties. So they took a third party along with them, Amma Makkal Munnetra Kazhagam, which is run by TTV Dinakaran. Very incidentally, TTV Dinakaran won the seat which was vacated by Jayalalitha after her passing away. So he is seen as the direct, like repository of whatever Jayalalitha's image and all that he had. And he named it very strangely. It's a Tamilian party belonging to Tamil Nadu, but very strangely the party does not have the name Dravidian in its name. So anyway, that's the one thing. But finally, I'll just come to, while winding up, I'll come to one issue, which is about what Purnima said about RSS. I don't know, as a journalist, Purnima, I'm sure, would know more RSS people than I know. But as far as RSS working for BJP and all is concerned, I'm privy to the number of meetings that the RSS conducted this election. And RSS never announces that they are going to work for the BJP or they are going to work for this party or that party. That RSS generally doesn't announce. But suffice to say that this whole story of RSS not working for BJP is totally wrong. I won't go into the details for want of time, but in case some details are required, I can give it. So this is what I think should have happened.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very candid as always, and it's not for a moderator to get into a debate with the panelists, but just on facts, constitution change was not discovered suddenly by the Congress. It was Anant Kumar Hegde, MP from Karnataka, who said you need to change the constitution to make India a Hindu Rashtra, and Bibek Dev Roy from the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council wrote an article saying that amending the constitution would not be enough. We need a brand new constitution, was arguing for a second republic. So just to be fair, it was not Congress who started this debate. Anyway, we'll let that be. Now may I request Yogendra Yadav, and Yogendraji, what I would like to know is that what was it that you were listening to? Which tune were you listening to that you could sort of forecast the election so well? And what was everybody doing wrong?
Thank you. I'll probably spend just 30 seconds answering his question, no more. Because I think the easiest thing in the world is to celebrate what happens to succeed and find everything right with it. I think there's something very limited involved here. And to my mind, exit polls are some of the most harmless things in the world. They only affect Satta market and share market, both of which I don't care for. I'm more worried about what happened 2 months before the election, which is what I'll probably focus. So allow me to dodge your question. I'm sure there would be questions of that. And let me just put my comments in 3 parts. One about what happened to supplement some of the questions that Chariji asked. Is there any defeat? Second, about why it happened. Again, to supplement what he said, is there any issue at all? And third, what next? Very quickly. It's a large territory, so allow me to go on very quickly. I would urge Chari Saab to consider the fact that something did happen in the country. And I think something very big happened in the country. And the only name for that is defeat. Why do I think so? On the face of it, a ruling party which has had 2 tenures, which is going for the 3rd tenure, if they manage to get kind of majority, it normally wouldn't be such a bad outing. All over the world, people going for 3rd term face some difficulties. Normally, if you fall a bit below majority and you have your allies pre-poll allies in all fairness, who come to support you, you have a legitimate claim to power. The trouble is with the word normally. This was not a normal election by any stretch of imagination. Here is an election where the ruling party outspent the opposition by 1:10 on the formal white money things, if social media spending is anything to go by. But I'm sure if I say 1:100, not many people would disagree with what happened here. In this election, the media, and I do not implicate journalists, I must say that journalists are about as honest as doctors or teachers in this country. So there's no point flogging journalists alone. But in all fairness, it should also be recorded that media, mainstream media of this country was utterly one-sided, played as brazen spokespersons of the ruling party. Yeah. In the yesterday, our friend Zubair has put out a 10-minute video which simply compresses the interviews done by media persons with the Prime Minister. Thankfully, there is not one word from the Prime Minister in that video, so you actually can watch. And what is most embarrassing is the kind of questions, the kind of comments that are being made. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but I actually felt ashamed of the whole thing. Let's not forget that this is an election where the entire state machinery was working as karyakartas of the BJP. Surat and Indore. These things happen in a back of beyond Bihar Panchayat election. For parliamentary election, you don't have, the thing of not allowing or getting your opponent to withdraw. ये बिहार के पंचायत इलेक्शन में होता था, कभी पार्लियामेंट्री इलेक्शन में नहीं हुई ये चीज़ें. And in order to be absolutely fair, the Election Commission of India was utterly disgraceful in its conduct. So, this is not a fair contest. This is not a normal election. This is truly a David versus Goliath kind of a contest. And in David versus Goliath contest, David has managed to give a punch, a proper bloody nose to Goliath. I don't care for numbers. You cannot understand. I've written an article this morning, so wouldn't bore you. It's in Indian Express. Please read it. I've argued that the outcome of this election cannot be understood merely with numbers. There is a logic of numbers, and there is a political context to it. Everyone knows that this election was not, to my mind, about kaun banega Pradhan Mantri. This election was about the supreme leader wanting a post facto stamp on dismantling of the constitution and in future complete destruction of democratic possibilities in this country. And that has received a setback. Thank God, don't we breathe more easily now. So, no, I didn't mean to be theatric here. So just to, I can't possibly, I know this is and it's actually brave of Mr. Chari to have come and spoken. I don't know if I would have the courage to come and speak in a situation like this. So I'm just trying to supplement what he has said. No, actually, I truly appreciate, this is not sarcasm, I truly appreciate that you've come here and you're speaking like this. And therefore, I don't want to turn it into a silly debate. Why? The issue of why, was it issueless? No, sir, it was not. Sorry, just to complete one point about the outcome. I think what we have witnessed is a very serious regress of the BJP. It gets clouded by two things. The recession of the BJP, not merely in those three states, in fact, in all the states from Karnataka to Bihar, except Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, there is a decline in vote share. In some cases, it gets expressed in large number of seats, in some in not seats. But there is a clear systematic swing away across states. It gets clouded by the fact that BJP has a positive swing from Kerala to Odisha. So in overall numbers, it looks like a little thing. But we are looking at something very serious. And I'm glad you reminded me of 1977, Because do remember that in 1977, Congress won South India. Congress actually did very positively. We forget the story of it. Yet we all remember what needs to be remembered, namely that it was a punch against emergency, punch against dictatorship, which is what this election was. On why? I would simply say that there is, at least in places where I traveled, I noticed, and I wrote about it, I said it's return to normal politics. Last two elections, the entire country was on an abnormal high for different reasons. That abnormal high came back to normalcy. And all the normal things which matter in election, should matter in election, started mattering. In some cases, it worked for the BJP because BJP had answers to those questions. In most cases, it worked against the BJP. What were the kind of questions? To my mind, the things that worked against the BJP, and I'm speaking of this large geography from Karnataka to Bihar. One, there was general disquiet, and general disquiet had to do with livelihood issues, unemployment, above all, mehengai, and mehengai has nothing to do with inflation. I think economists confuse these two things. Price rise and inflation are two entirely different things. I'll come back to that at some point. Mehengai was a very major issue, and so was the plight of the farmers. All these issues mattered across this entire geography. There was general unease, and then there was a specific resentment of 3 or 4 groups. Farmers, because of the conditions that farmers are in and what has happened to them, and then anger which was stoked by the farmers' agitation. Dalits. I think Chari Saab gave us all a very lovely hint for the constitution question that he himself raised. Pramod Mahajan's answer actually applies to that. That is the real answer. Some accusations tend to stick on some kind of people. With the BJP, when you say anti-constitution, you don't have to give too much evidence. It sticks. You know. And that's actually what happened. These things stick. Anti-reservation, anti-constitution. People believe it. You know, it's all big. There's specific resentment among Muslims because they felt they were being reduced to second-rate citizenship. And specific resentment among sections of society who felt Tanashahi was an issue. Believe me, I actually heard this expression, and whenever we heard it, I checked with my colleagues. तुमने तो अपने मुंह से नहीं बोला था. नहीं सर, वो खुद बोल रहे थे. मैंने खुद सुना. Tanashahi is a word being used. And so there was, and this came from RSS supporters. They said, vote BJP को देंगे, लेकिन ये गलत हो रहा है, ये नहीं होना चाहिए. Chief Minister को पकड़ के अंदर कर दिया, ये कर दिया. RSS people took me aside and said, देश में थोड़ा बेहतर opposition होना चाहिए. आप लोग कुछ काम कीजिए ना इसके लिए. So that's the strength of this country. So all these things made a difference. And then, of course, there was a local anger against BJP's sitting representatives and so on. I'll just now finally just rattle off what I expect in terms of consequences from this verdict. Many friends expect the Modi government to become democratic because of the compulsions of coalition. I don't share that optimism. I think that's simply against Mr. Modi's DNA. I think, and the trouble is all over the world, authoritarian rulers get into the habit of believing that everything can be managed. That's the problem with the duo here. They believe everything can be managed, everyone can be managed, everything has a price, everyone has a price. I suspect they'll go on with the same. But it may be a small check to begin with. I expect the parliament to be a little more vocal, a little more space for debate and discussions. But, you know, my hopes are fairly limited on that count. Parliament को भी manage किया जाएगा. Media, I mean, this is in ascending order of my hopes. Media, I do hope some voices, because every I seriously meant it, there are as many honest teachers and doctors as there are honest journalists. Honest journalists would have a little more space in their newsrooms, would be able to occasionally quarrel with their editor, occasionally push a few things, which is such a great idea. So a little more opening in the media. And I hope, I'm not a very good judge, and after this event I'm going to Prashant Bhushan to check it. I do hope that judiciary may be able to read those lines in the law and constitution which were kind of blurred for the last few years. So the lines may look a little sharp now. I'm hoping that. But above all, my hope resides on the fact that protests, movements, andolans of this country will get stronger. And on that I have no doubt. I don't have to check that with anyone. And in the last instance, democracy depends on that. For the last few years, many other political scientists, had started calling India competitive authoritarianism. Because I think we should not work with a very simple binary of democracy, dictatorship. A very large number of countries in the world today are hybrid. And competitive authoritarianism is one of those hybrids. What this verdict has done is that it has expanded the scope of, it's up the competitive part a bit and down the authoritarianism for a little while. As I say in Hindi, ye tantra pe lok ki vijay hai. Lok tantra, usually tantra is tantra lok usually. But momentarily, Lokatantra looks like Lok-tantra, which is what has happened. It may be momentary. It may not last very long. Enormous effort has to be put in because, mind you, this is not an election game. And that's why I absolutely can't do much discussion on exit polls and such like. But this is not a T20 match. This is dismantling of our republic. And this verdict, this outcome, has given us a little hope that we can reclaim the republic if we continue to make efforts. And as a Bharat Jodo Abhiyan national convener, may I take 5 seconds for advertisement that you are all welcome to join Bharat Jodo Abhiyan for reclaiming the republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Yogendra, for that absolutely brilliant presentation, analysis, insights. We don't have much time, so I'm going to give all the speakers 1 minute each, beginning with Harish. Harish, you quoted 4 headlines, so let me quote one headline to you from Daily Star in Dhaka. When the results came out, their headline was, "A victory that seems like defeat." Yet we have Mr. Chari here saying there's no defeat. So why is this victory being, this defeat being repackaged as victory, one? And two, any ideas about Modi 3.0, where it is headed? Do you agree with Yogendra?
I mean, this is part of, nobody should be surprised, Mr. Modi. Actually, this vote is also a total rejection of the immoral politics BJP has practiced and institutionalized in the last 10 years. Politics of money, politics of engineering, Operation Lotus, whatever it is called, buying and disrupting mandates in the assembly. They are, it's I know Gujarat. In Gujarat, I used to ask question people. 20 years ago, people would talk. There was a mafia. What has happened to the mafia? The state has become the mafia. There is not a single transaction, business, land deal, where there is, the politics the collusion, politics of collusion. I call it loot and greed axis. Now, as to the question, this is the first election Mr. Modi has lost in his life. He's not used to lose the elections, and before the elections, many of us has gone through various scenarios. But what will happen, whether he will leave or not leave. So this is something which I agree with. He's a confrontationist politician. He thrives on confrontation. He doesn't know how to compromise. He was born as a RSS pracharak. Conspiracy is in his DNA. So he will very much continue to do that.
Thank you. One exception. I don't think conspiracy is in the DNA of Sheshadri. So I would like to say
He
that.
no longer is from Seva.
Conspiracy is not in the DNA of RSS also.
Well, I don't know. So Purnima, 1 minute for you. Tell me what happened to the Yadav vote, because that's the base of Mayawati. So people say that after she chastised her nephew, what's his name, Akash Anand, when he criticized the BJP, part of the Yadav vote shifted. And that also contributed to BJP's victory in Ayodhya and Chitrakoot associated with Ram. Take the case of Sitapur, for example, where Congress selected a candidate, he refused. Then they selected somebody else, he said, no, I'm going to get defeated, I don't want to. A third reluctant man was brought in. And he won by a huge majority. So did Yadav vote shifting play a role in all this?
I think so. I think for the last 2 elections, this is from the BJP itself. The BJP has been noticing that not just the Valmikis and the Pasis, etc., who've been voting Khatiks, who've been voting for the BJP over a period of time, they were noticing that even the Jatavs were shifting to the BJP. But this time, like I said, towards Awadh Purvanchal, one saw it becoming an Agda Pichda election and Arakshan becoming an issue. If you look at the BSP's own vote, it has shrunk to very low, I think 2.5 something %. So Yadav vote has shifted, and it has shifted to the Gathbandhan this time, which is why there's such a large scale sort of upsurge in favor of the Gathbandhan this time.
Thank you. Sheshadri, I'm just intrigued. Why is the RSS still betting on the declining career of Modi? Now, if you take the case of elections in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, they saw the wisdom of bringing in fresh blood. Nobody knew who these chief ministers were. They were just picked up, and because obviously the RSS saw some talent in them. So is the BJP today bereft of talent completely, and that they were lumbered with Modi? Or has Modi made the RSS totally ineffectual in influencing the BJP's choice of its leader? Because I also find it strange that Mr. Modi got himself elected as an NDA leader first. That was day before yesterday. And BJP parliamentary party has not met. The NDA parliamentary party met today, including BJP people, and then elected him. So was he scared that RSS actually might put up another candidate against him?
No, I think we are reading too much into what I would say, quote unquote, the media writes about RSS and all that. RSS has a very limited role as far as political parties are concerned. And believe me, just as some RSS people come and told Purnima about all these things, some Congress people have come and told me also a number of things. I have prevented 2 Congress stalwarts, both have won the election this time. I virtually stopped them from joining the BJP. And I'm sure they should be thanking me.
Don't laugh. This is correct.
No, I have said this. So I'm not going to quote any names and all that. Don't worry about it now. But it's just as Shri Yogendra Yadavji is interested about the welfare of this country, believe me, the RSS is equally interested about the welfare of this country. And yes, RSS has certain agenda, they have got certain principles, they have got some ideas, and it works on that narrative. And you set a different narrative, and Yogendra, even in spite of all that you have said, you have still not told me what was the issue in this election. The fact is still the issue, there was no issue. It's not that the Congress fought against for democracy and the BJP was going to subvert democracy. It's nothing like that. So it's pure and simple politics. As far as NDA is concerned, NDA partners are concerned, It's pure and simple politics. And as far as the other opposition Gathbandhan is concerned, many of the parties which are part of that Gathbandhan have done business with BJP. DMK, ADMK, both were part of BJP also. Trinamool Congress was part of BJP. Trinamool Congress is not part of BJP now. So it's very simple. It all depends on the situation and the political calculations that these political parties make. At times, some political party in a particular state doesn't want Congress to be the partner. Last time, 2019, the Congress Samajwadi Party did not want Congress to be their partner. And they realized that it didn't work. This time they thought that it will be good if these two parties can work together and transfer votes, and that is exactly what has happened in UP.
Do you want to respond to that?
And as far as Harish is concerned, I don't know. I mean, I don't know from where you get these figures as far as Gujarat is concerned. I know. I equally know that state. I equally know that state very well. And to make a sweeping statement that the state is the mafia and all that, I think it's a little too much. I think we all have certain ideological background and baggage, but I don't think we should carry this baggage to this extent of painting the entire state. There are industrialists who still trust Gujarat more than what they can trust West Bengal. So that we should realize all these things.
Okay. All right. Yogendraji, I don't have to ask you a question. You have to respond to what he said.
My teacher and senior, Professor Bashiruddin Ahmed, once told me something, and he said, he used to joke and say, "Tum socialist log," pointing to people like me. So he said, idiots like you think that all the good things in history are done by good people, and all the bad things are done by bad people. He said this is the most idiotic view of history. He said, go read history. Most of the good things were done by very bad people. And I think there's some point there. Yes, this election was pure politics. Yes, previous election was pure politics. I cannot think of any election in this country which was not pure politics, and I would not want any election in this country which is not pure politics. Yes, most of those who are contesting elections are contesting with some personal, some collective ambitions. But in saying all these things, Chari Saab, we are not making statement about 2024. We are making statements about human history, nature of politics, nature of humankind, and so on. What we are here to explain is what is the difference in 2024. And to my mind, it is, if issues operate, they do not operate because politicians decide to suspend to be politicians, because power games suddenly cease. No. It is in and through those power games that issues are played all the time in human history. What were the issues this time? I think I raised 2 or 3 things. One, livelihood concerns. People felt that what was being shown to them on television was not their own life. Unemployment, price rise. Incidentally, price rise is India's code word for poverty and lack of purchasing power. It has nothing to do with what economists call inflation. Unemployment, poverty, state of farmers. And then specifically, so people looked at it and said, and in fact, most of them said, Desh aage badh raha hai. Meri halat kharab hai. And that is the real thing. That's the power of media. मेरे पास कुछ नहीं है, मेरे पड़ोसी के पास कुछ नहीं है, मगर देश आगे बढ़ रहा है. मैं समाजवादी को वोट दूंगा, ये कांग्रेस को वोट देंगे, वो भी बीजेपी को वोट नहीं देंगे, लेकिन आएगा तो मोदी. This is what was happening. So livelihood issues were real issues, and for a change people said, okay, we've waited enough. In Uttar Pradesh, my sense was that, and I was actually amazed when I discovered the kind of things you were describing, because I discovered the same things. And I said, yaar, ye sari cheezein to 2022 mein bhi thi. What's new? And honestly, I still cannot answer the question, why is it that people decided that Avara Pashu, which was very much an issue in 22, inflation, Berojgari, why they decided to suspend those things in 22 and why it became an active principle in 24. Some historian will have to answer it at some point. But it got triggered. Second, at the lower level, BJP's local leaders are about as unpopular as Congress leaders used to be a few decades ago. It just stinks at the local level. That's a point I think Harishi has also made. People can smell it. And third, I made that point about specific sectoral grievances of farmers, of Dalits, of Muslims. And if you look at the aggregate impact of it, it's huge. So something was happening. So when we say issue-less elections, sometimes either they are issues we don't want to look at, or, for example, I would not say Odisha is an issue-less election. BJP raised an issue. BJP has succeeded. There was an issue. BJP must have done something to get those votes in Odisha. So I think it's usually issues that either we can't see or we don't want to see.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm not going to summarize this brilliant discussion. It's beyond my ken. So I will throw the discussion. Hold on a minute to you guys. You can ask questions. Do not make speeches, please. Don't give me your analysis of the election. If you have anything to ask these panelists, please do so. But using my privileges, the first person I'll call upon to actually make a comment is Kumar Ketkar, former member of parliament, who 4 months ago, much before elections were announced in this room, had said that BJP will not get 240. What, did you have a dream then, or what happened? Kumar Ketkar. Is there a microphone?
No, it's all right. I just calculated on the basis of what was happening. I have been covering election almost for the last 40 years. And that's why I was just calculating and came, not with a hunch, but with some sort of calculation. And I was extremely happy when the same figure was arrived at by Yadavak. So I think that was it and nothing more. And as he very correctly said, I share the same thing. I am not greatly hopeful of the new combination, and I don't believe that the so-called contradictions in this coalition will topple the government. I don't think so. Modi is capable of bulldozing with them on us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, identify yourself and then ask a question, and ask a question once you have a mic in your hand, because this is being recorded.
I just want to tell my name is Praveen Dawa.
आपके पीछे पहले मैंने बुलाया, उनको दीजिए. Thank you.
My name is Shurjit Nandi. I have a question that is an anti-expert question. All of you on the panel seem to have in various ways have predicted the outcome of this election, but I think a lot of the people, including myself, were very surprised. And had we known what the outcome would have been, the result might have been quite different if we had known what the outcome was going to be. So I'm wondering whether that's something that power tries to negate, the sense of what is actually on the ground. And if so, is there some technological or other manner in which regular humans, not exalted analysts like yourselves, can actually have a better sense of what is true on the ground 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years into the election? Thank you.
You want to take that?
Can I take that?
Yeah.
Thank you for saying this, because that's exactly my hunch. If the media of this country was half honest, and if at the beginning of elections they were, instead of saying 400 par, 400 par, 400 par, instead of that they had said this is a close contest, we do not know what would happen, then the result would not have been 235 seats for India. It would have been definitely 270 seats, 275 seats for India. And instead of 290 for NDA, it would have been 230, 220 for NDA. This is the power of media. This is the power of communication. What can ordinary people do? I said that again and again in every single, what amazes me, and behind I can see Philip Oldenburg, who taught me this some years ago, many decades ago. What amazes me, and this is addressed to everyone, that everyone loves to talk about elections. India has about 2 crore psephologists, at least, on last count. Everyone loves to talk about politics. Everyone has an opinion about public opinion, and no one bothers to speak to public. No one, honestly. Everywhere. Philip Oldenburg has a great article, and I would urge all of you to read it. This was written in after 1984
Professor Oldenburg,
election.
raise your hand so that people know who you are. There he is in that corner, hiding there. One of the most brilliant experts.
He has an article. I'll summarize it in 3 sentences. In 1984, no polls, no newspaper, no journalist got it right. Philip Oldenburg investigated why, and he said the problem is that there are 3 people: journalists, politicians, and locally informed persons. These 3 speak to each other and decide what is the wave. None of them bothers to actually speak to ordinary people. So, my friend, the easiest thing that anyone could have done, like Purnima did, go to that tailor's shop, बैठो थोड़ा सा, बात करो, उनको वेंट करने दो शुरू में, उसके बाद आखिर में पूछो अच्छा फिर क्या करेंगे. Indians love to speak. They would tell you what they really believe in. All this nonsense about voters don't tell you this and that is complete nonsense. The voters love to speak in this country. It's you who do not have patience. So I had said after this, what Purnima mentioned, I said to everyone, I said, look, this is my projection, but I'm a political activist. Why should you believe me? Please don't believe me. Why don't you step out, speak to 10 BJP voters of the past and ask them, are you going to vote this time? Speak to 10 Samajwadi Party Congress voters, ask them, what are you going to do today? My answers was, throughout my travel in Uttar Pradesh, after speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people, because we were a team, we would fan out to different tolas of every village. I did not meet one person. Actually, I met just one. It's a strange, funny story, but that's a different matter. Not one person who said, I had voted for Samajwadi Party or Congress in the past, and I'm not going to vote for this time. Everyone was sticking to that. And when you spoke to BJP voters, every 3rd or 4th or 5th would say, is baar nahi dunga. It was that simple. It is, while it is very difficult, and I think today is a day when you can discount polls and say we don't need polls. I don't believe in any such thing. Scientific sample surveys are very critical things. They are extremely useful. No polls, I mean, I may have got it right this time by a bit of a fluke, but no one can actually say you need a thermometer to say whether it's 101.8 or 102.4. You need thermometers, and surveys are those thermometers. But you just have to put your hand on the forehead to say ki bukhar hai ki nahi hai. The problem is, why did the media of this country not do this? माथे पे हाथ लगा के तो देख लेते, वो क्यों नहीं किया? That is what worries me.
ठीक है, thank you. So,
Just one small addition.
I just want to request journalists in this room, after hearing Yogendra Yadav, please don't make exit pollsters cry on TV. It's not a good thing to do.
No, exit poll is something that after the polls are over. But his question is
Answers also need to be short, please.
Pre-media these things. You know, there are certain instances that media all over the world, the media has not been able to predict or never predicted. The fall of Berlin Wall, I don't see any article before the fall of Berlin Wall saying that on this day the Berlin Wall is going to fall. Disintegration of USSR, SALT II agreement was taking place between US and USSR, and after 3 months of the SALT agreement signature, USSR disintegrated. Nobody predicted in the US. I don't see any article. You can go to Google and see no article which predicts that, look, don't discuss about SALT. It's no use. Anyway, it's going to disintegrate. It never happened. I'll tell you, show me one media article in 2004. There could have been one or two, but in general, the media never predicted 2004 results. 1977, no media, and that time, of course, the media was not even free. But nobody predicted that Mrs. Gandhi is going to lose. To that extent, the media is free now. why no media predicted this?
So let's Captain Dawar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Praveen Dawa. Everybody knows I'm an army officer turned congressman. I also run a paper called The Secular Savior, and the last heading was 10 reasons why Modi should go. Unfortunately, Modi has not gone.
No
My
advertisement.
question
We're going to
is,
charge you for it. Ask your question, please.
and I want to tell Mr. Shishadri, I was one of the principal campaigners of the Congress party in some of the states. The issues were there. Unemployment was a very big issue. Price rise was a big issue. The promises which the Congress made in its manifesto was a very big issue. The issues were there. My question is to Mr. Yogendra Yadav. If the India alliance had coordinated better, do you think they would have done better?
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
The simple answer is yes. There was a lot that could have been done. The only question is I'm not entirely sure how much to expect from India alliance leaders who did not even know whether next morning their candidate would withdraw the nomination, whether ED would raid and such like. They were more worried about their account being defrozen and things of that kind. So in that situation, you can end up over expecting. So I don't know. But yes, what I would have liked, to my mind, post Bharat Jodo Yatra, post Karnataka, and post the formation of India coalition, which had rattled the BJP straight away, there was a great opportunity. I would have liked two or three things from India coalition that did not happen. Number one, a declaration to the nation about 4 or 5 big policy promises to the country, which Congress did towards the end, and which they did in Uttar Pradesh 10 days before the last phase. 10 kilo ration denge. If this was announced 6 months before the election by all the parties put together. So some kind, not a joint manifesto, but at least 4 or 5 big promises, joint promises by India coalition to the country would have made a difference. Number 2, some ground action, not just press conferences. I mean, 140 MPs are being thrown off the parliament. And what we have is a jantar mantar thing, which even we do. These are parties which are capable of bringing lakhs of people on the street. So I would have wanted to see some things on the street. And third, I would have expected seat sharing discussions not to be prolonged till the last minute. There was absolutely no need. Much of a certain section of media was like vultures waiting for these things to be picked up and flashed. So why do this? So to my mind, if these things had happened, we could have easily seen 10 or 20 more seats for the India. So in that sense, yes, there is a disappointment.
Thank you. Sunil Mehra.
With the exception of some notable people, like the Caravan or the Citizen or the Wire, very, very few, cherry pick those. The fact remains that most of the media has been absolutely disgusting. My question is, even in the last 2 days, I've seen the brazenness and the coarseness of the discourse, the vulgarity, which was a commonplace feature of our print media and of our electronic media, has actually perceptibly cooled down in 2 days. However, I want to know, given the reprehensible ownership patterns of 99% of our media at this point of time, is there any hope of us finding space to breathe or to write? Many of us have given up writing in disgust.
So what's the
Do you
question?
see a space opening
What's the
up?
question, Sunil?
Do we see a space opening up for media?
Yeah,
now?
so who are you asking? Harish?
I'm asking Yogendra.
Yogendra, okay.
And of course,
He should
Harish,
be
who
I think Harish should
Harish,
He
who
knows
I
it
hugely
infinitely
admire
more than I do.
for being the stalwart. I read you with such respect, sir.
Yeah.
Do you see a space for people like you and people like us opening up now?
No, I don't see. But let's not be pessimistic about it. The point is that it's any time the executive is on a slightly weaker wicket, other stakeholders become, to use that nice Hindi expression, chora. They all become, so I expect judiciary to become more quote-unquote independent. High court judges would become more assertive. Even election commission, don't be too surprised if they start behaving differently. They are time servers. So they are good at smelling which way the wind is blowing. So, but let's not, that Mr. Modi is being underwritten for last 10 years by the most obnoxious, brazen, corporate conglomeration which in any country we have, except maybe Russia or so. So they will, don't underestimate the power of big money in supporting party politics, party loyalties.
Thank you. Parsa Venkateshwar Rao Jr.
This question is...
Okay, just he wants to say something.
Sorry, Harish, I really beg to differ. I am not as senior a journalist as you are, or many other senior journalists here. But let me tell you, however powerful or dictatorial a person would be in this country, in spite of all his dictatorial capabilities and powers, or misuse of power, there should be some spine in judiciary, some spine in media. This country's media has stood against Mrs. Indira Gandhi. This country's Jagmohan Lal Sinha stood against Mrs. Indira Gandhi. He was the one who gave the verdict against Mrs. Gandhi. So don't tell me that, after the emergency, it was said that they were asked to bend and they were ready to crawl.
I'll give you a list of journalists sacked, editors sacked by this government got sacked. So let's not go there and make these bold claims.
I think it to say that the media is being stifled and all that is only half of the story. The other half is, like Yogendra Yadav said, I would, and if 10,000 media personnels or even 500 media personnels are on the road against all these things, believe me, I am prepared to lead them.
Good evening, friends. I'm delighted to welcome you to this edition of the Media Foundation IIC Media Dialogues, which focus on issues related to the media in the country. Today's topic couldn't be more topical. It's on how India voted, a subject that is being discussed throughout the country by the people, the politicians, and of course, journalists. And we have with us today an outstanding panel to give you insights into why the 2024 Lok Sabha elections turned out to be as fascinating as they did. But before we commence, a few words about the Media Foundation, the organization which, in collaboration with the India International Center, holds the quarterly media dialogues. The Media Foundation is a non-profit which was set up in 1979 with the aim of upholding freedom of speech and expression. Its founding members included such media stalwarts as B.G. Verghese, Prabhash Joshi, N.S. Jagannathan, and Ajit Bhattacharjee. Apart from holding the media dialogues, it also gives the prestigious Chameli Devi Jain Award to an outstanding woman media person every year. Since its inception in 1982, the award has been given to women journalists writing and reporting on issues of development, social and gender justice, human rights, the environment, health, and so on. In addition, the award makes it a point to recognize those who are doing stellar journalism in India's hinterland, but often do not get the recognition that they deserve. We also hold the annual B.G. Verghese Memorial Lecture, which was instituted in memory of B.G. Verghese, legendary journalist and one of the organization's founding members who passed away in 2014. The memorial lecture has been delivered by luminaries such as former Governor Gopal Gandhi, former Vice President of India Hamid Ansari, Justice A.P. Shah, Justice Madan Lokur, former Editor-in-Chief of the UK's Guardian newspaper, Alan Rushbridger, former editor and publisher of Business Standard T.N. Nainan, among others. In 2001, the Media Foundation launched Hoot.org, the country's first media watch website. Until it ceased operation in 2017, the Hoot was far and away India's most respected media monitoring site. Now, without further ado, let us head right into our panel discussion. Mr. Bharat Bhushan, journalist, editor, and chairperson of the Media Foundation, is the moderator of today's discussion, and he will introduce our eminent panelists to you. The panelists are already on the dais, so that's it. We can start. Thank you. Over to you, Bharat.
Thank you, Shuma. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming here. It's been a very exciting election, as all of us know. People have drawn different conclusions from it. Some say that EVMs are now vindicated. Others say political consultancy is now dead. We've seen what happened to some of them, breaking down on live TV. Others are saying we've got a very strong opposition. Yet others say that the Prime Minister's actions and his ideology will be moderated. That remains to be seen. But I don't want to come between you and these experts. So we have a brilliant panel today. We have Mr. Harish Khare. Harish is a veteran journalist, served as media advisor to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in 2009 to 2012. He was the editor-in-chief of the Tribune group of publications, has also served in senior editorial positions in The Hindu and the Times of India, where he was my senior. I was a junior assistant editor when he was stopping over in Delhi on his way to Ahmedabad to become the resident editor there. He's also my predecessor as in the Media Foundation. He was the former chairman. We have my old friend Sheshadri Chari. He is a veteran Swayamsevak of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. He was a pracharak for the RSS for 18 years, editor of the Organizer for 12 years. I met him when I was the executive editor of Hindustan Times, and we've remained friends despite our ideological differences through all the ups and downs in our careers since then. He's the former convener of the Foreign Policy Cell of the BJP. He is Professor Emeritus in Pune University, teaching Defense and Strategic Studies. He's also currently a professor at Manipal University, Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, and he's the governor's nominee to the Managing Council of Mumbai University. But what distinguishes him from people of that ideology is that he's receptive to discussion, and you can have a civilized discussion with Sheshadri Chari over a drink, even though he doesn't drink. He'll have an orange juice but discuss with you. I have my old colleague Purnima Joshi, who's worked with me in 3 newspapers. She's an astute political reporter and commentator. She's the political editor and bureau chief of the Hindu Business Line. She is one of the most principled journalists I've met, who doesn't take nonsense from anybody, including an editor. I remember fondly when she walked out of an editorial meeting and saying, "To hell with you and your journalism, I'm going off to the hills." So I had to send her a message saying, "Purnima, you belong to journalism, you don't belong to the hills, please come back." And next day she was back as my political editor. We of course have Yogendra Yadav, who doesn't need any introduction at all. He's one of the few prominent public intellectuals who called this election amazingly accurately. The other person is sitting here, Kumar Ketkar, who in the last media dialogue had said BJP will not get more than 240. Yogendra ji is a political and social activist. I don't need to tell you that. He's the national convener of the Bharat Jodo Abhiyan. And he has shown that if you have your ear to the ground, you can make much better forecasts than doing your statistical analysis and charging crores of rupees for it and then going all wrong. So all of you, welcome. I think the format we'll follow is that I'll call the panelists to speak. They'll speak for 8 to 10 minutes each. And once one round is over, then they can react to what others have said for the 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll have questions. So I will request all the panelists to be brief, because people have come to ask you questions. They have a lot of knowledge of their own and received a lot of knowledge, and I think knowledge is pouring out of their ears now. so we'll leave some time for questions. So may I invite Harish Khare as the first speaker. Harish, tell us, what were the turning points in this election? When did you know that the election had turned?
No, I don't know.
You don't know? So should we move on to the next speaker?
And what I intend to do today, with your indulgence, read out to you 4 headlines and 1 headline which no newspaper has published, which should have been published. So let me just do a very simple exercise. The very first news item I'm going to read to you, it's very brief, there was no heading to it also. And this appeared on page number 11 of the Hindu edition of May 7th. And the whole item read, I quote, A week before the Munger Lok Sabha constituency goes to polls on May 13 in the fourth phase of Bihar's gangster turned politician Anand Kumar Singh, a four-time MLA from Mokama, popularly known as Chota Sarkar or Chote Sarkar, was on Sunday released from jail on a 15-day parole on the ground of quote-unquote resolution of his ancestral land, unquote. In August 2009, he surrendered in an arms case and an MP-MLA court in Patna had awarded him 10 years imprisonment. Mokama falls in Munger constituency from where the ruling JDU has fielded its former president Rajiv Ranjan, otherwise known as Lallan Singh. Soon after his release, Mr. Anand reached Sabnima village of Bar in a cavalcade of 100 SUVs and rallied support from Mr. Lallan Singh, unquote. Why this is important? This is, in my mind, a postcard of last 10 years ago, when in 2014, we turned the country over to Mr. Modi. We were promised a new morally enforced, anchored political culture. At the end of 10 years, we are back to old India of gangsters, money power, muscle power. And this is not the isolated incident. The most famous incident, of course, in Jaunpur, where Dhananjay Singh and the whole gangsters, otherwise popularly known in Hindi parlance as Bahubalis, that culture has continued and uncorrected, in fact reinforced. So that is the new India, what it is 2014. The new Bharat has turned out to be as ugly or as pretty as the old India. The second news item is a very small news item. Actually, it's a photograph. This is from the Jagran of Lucknow, May 14. It's a photograph of Rahul Gandhi in Raebareli getting himself his beard trimmed in a local barber shop. Now, what does it implicate, signify? Again, 10 years ago, we all in this room and many of us beyond this room had written off Mr. Rahul Gandhi as the Pappu. This is the Pappufication of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Here what Mr. Gandhi is saying, I am not privileged. Mr. Modi's, one of the basic strength Modi has driven for all these 10 years is that he was not privileged. He was challenging the privileges of the Gandhi family and the elite that stood behind it. Instead, in 10 years, Mr. Modi has now become the new privileged man. If anybody would recall that famous photograph of him on a beach, but what people didn't notice that there was a carpet on the beach. I mean, this is the height. So he now in 10 years, short of dressing up SPG in Praetorian Gall of the imperial paraphernalia, Mr. Modi has privileged himself as the one and only one emperor, the most privileged man in the country. And towards the end of the campaign, of course, all of us know that he was claiming that he was not just a human being, but something more than that. So that is, so my point again, to begin, what began as Mr. Modi's strength, in 10 years, Mr. Modi has ended up not only forcing Mr. Rahul Gandhi to humanize himself, de-imperialize himself, and himself become imperialized in the process. The third item I want to quote again to you is from Amar Ujala, again Lucknow edition. I happened to be there in that time. This is news headline on front page. Miss Mayawati saying कि आप अपना नमक खा रहे हैं, भाजपा RSS का नहीं. This is the first time any politician in this campaign challenged Mr. Modi's claim that he was providing ration to 80 crore people. So here is this woman, otherwise her politics could be very dodgy, is dodgy, would remain dodgy, but she was giving every cadre person, every talking head, an idea to question the great benefactor Mr. Modi has pretended himself to be, that this is not something Mr. Modi is doing out of his pocket, but this is something out of the taxpayers' money. The fourth item, from Times of India, May 23rd. If Congress wins, terrorists will be fed biryani in the PM house, says Modi. Now, after 10 years, biryani, it was evoked, the concept of biryani was evoked by Mr. Lal Kishan Advani in 1990-91. 30 years, the man is trapped in a 30-year-old 20th century rhetoric. And the modern India, the corporate India serenades him as a modern mind? Come on, please. So this is what this campaign, on the campaign trail, Mr. Modi revealed himself not only to be antediluvian mind and unreformed mind. A man whom everybody conspired to make into a great modernizer is actually not. He's now really trapped in his own rhetoric and caters entirely to a new gang, which I could call the Republic TV gang. And the last item, which no paper published and could not be published, is how the Muslim community kept its cool. Despite all the provocations, day after day, by Mr. Modi, Honorable Shri Amit Shah, even more Honorable Shri Yogi Adityanath, and everybody else, there was no Maulana, no Imams, no fatwas. It was a wonderful, in many ways, how the largest community, minority community in this country organized itself, if at all, nobody knows. But it did not, there were no riots, there was no violence. And this, to my mind, is something which needs to be celebrated, and it defines how the election turned out to be the way it did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that is the alarm saying the time is up. Sorry. Thank you very much, Harish. With those vignettes, you've told us how people saw this election and Mr. Modi. Purnima, you traveled through UP, and UP has been the most remarkable story of this election. I too had gone to UP on the first day of polling in Moradabad and saw what was happening. But you can't go to one constituency and generalize. You traveled through whole of Western UP. Tell us how UP turned. I mean, this was the place where the Ram temple is. This is where they want to do the agitation for Mathura and Kashi and so on and so forth. This is where they had bulldozers, destroying homes of Muslims. So how did UP change, and why did it change?
Yeah, so UP actually didn't change as much as, for some of us who traveled from the first phase onwards. You reach Moradabad in the first phase. And at that time, a lot of my colleagues were not interested in traveling. There was a sort of a fatigue. There was 400 par, and people said that UP, BJP will probably even gain some seats. So with that level of fatigue and predictability, I walked into Moradabad, and Moradabad, Rampur, Amroha, Sambal, Muslim-dominated seats. And what was being said was that in places like Rampur, Azam Khan, because of his arrest, etc., there are local factors. Muslims are despondent. Not too many seats have been given to Muslims by the Samajwadi Party. In Moradabad itself, there was a woman called Ruchi Veera, last-minute candidate. So first I decided to check, where the Muslims are going. And no question about that. Muslims were unanimously voting for Samajwadi Party. But as you travel, you go to an assembly segment called Kant, which is a Jat-dominated area. And RLD had joined the BJP, and Jain Chaudhary was campaigning there. And so I thought, let me check about who other, besides the Muslims, who are voting for the Gathbandhan. And so with the Jats, strangely very, very vocal against Modi, and Modi particularly, and one Jat farmer telling me, वो तो हवाई फायर करता है, बहुत ज़्यादा बोलता है. Then you proceed further, you go to a constituency called Nagina, where Chandrasekhar Azad was standing, and it had been a seat won by the BSP earlier, and it looked like the votes were going to be divided between BSP, SP, and Chandrasekhar Azad, and the BJP was going to win, which is what they were claiming anyway. But you go and actually, what I've noticed in this election is that you go and not talk to the political observers or so-called journalists. And we also have a tendency to go to a place and start talking to journalists and so-called intellectuals of the place, etc. But you talk to people, normal people, go shop to shop, go in the neighborhoods, and Dalits, who are a difficult bunch to crack. So you sit with them. For some time they will not talk, and after a while, somebody will say, oh, we are voting for the BJP. They'll tell you, we are voting for the BJP. So you keep sitting with them and by instinct try to dig deeper, etc. After a while it transpires that a whole lot of them, I was sitting in a tailor's shop in Nagina, and a whole lot of them were voting for BJP, or so they told me. But by some instinct I stayed there, and after a while the two most vocal supporters of the BJP left. And then they all turned to me and started sharing videos of Chandrasekhar Azad, and very enthusiastically telling me, go to this place. You'll realize, those guys are voting for the for Chandrasekhar Azad. They took me around to various other establishments where I met other people. So after the first phase, I realized two things. One is that A, there was no ambiguity among the Muslims. B, Dalits were not so steadfast either with the BSP or with the BJP. They had gravitated towards the BJP earlier. And C, there was Prime Minister was being criticized quite openly. And the third thing was that at the local level, the cadre of the RSS and the BJP were not very enthusiastic. Like I met people in the RSS, the whole families of RSS workers in Fatehpur Sikri, for instance, another very interesting seat, had been won by 5 lakh votes by the BJP earlier. And this time, if you look at it, the margin of victory of the BJP is very, very small. I mean, the Congress could have almost made it with a very unknown candidate who had no infrastructure, nothing, except that besides the caste alignments there was also the fact that the local RSS cadre was not working. So after 2-3 phases, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, that, A, Prime Minister is being criticized openly, B, Dalits are shifting, C, the Muslim consolidation along with the Gathbandhan, And then you had other castes sort of shifting. So I remember calling up Yogendra Yadav, in fact, around that time, and generally to cross-check and ask him. And so he, like a teacher, he told me, look, if you're talking to people, ask them who they voted last time and who are they voting this time. And if, let's say 10 people, you find 3 people who voted BJP last time, and they're voting the Gadbandhan this time, there you have your shift. So I tried to kind of follow this in my subsequent travels. And you were getting reports from elsewhere in UP. For instance, my friend Prashant Trivedi of the VV Giri Institute in Lucknow did a lot of travels in central UP and Purvanchal, where he was saying from the Jatavs in western UP, the Parsis dominate in the central area, and he was saying that other factors are working, like Samvidhan has become a big thing. He say every village I go to, there are 4 Dalits who will stand there and start talking about Samvidhan and Arakshan. So at one level that was happening. At another level you had another friend of mine. I mean, we were all reporters, researchers trying to cross-check things with each other, trying to keep our ear to the ground. And my friend Suman Gupta from Jan Morcha newspaper in Lucknow, Faizabad, another excellent journalist who was the first one to tell me that they're going to lose in Ayodhya. And why? Because people's lives have been disrupted, their homes, their shops have been appropriated, they've not been compensated enough, there's VIP movement day in and day out, plus the other consolidation that is happening of the pichda. I mean, we kept discussing how with the Dalits and the pichda work, the social engineering that Samajwadi Party was experimenting with, giving tickets to pichda, Alpasankyak and Dalit Samaj. That seemed to be working on the ground. So in Ayodhya, for instance, the person who's won is a Parsi, I think. And Suman told me that besides the fact that there is pichda consolidation, there are all these local factors they're going to lose in Ayodhya, and not just in Ayodhya. If you look at it, out of the 9 or so seats in the Ayodhya division, they've lost 5. They've lost Ambedkar Nagar, they've lost Shavasti, and in central UP, by the time the Chunav moved in central UP and Purvanchal, there seemed to be 2-3 factors. It seemed to be becoming an Agada Pichda Chunav. And Prime Minister had somewhat lost his sheen. And if you go to their rallies, Akhilesh and Rahul's rallies, they were being overrun by people. And that's people didn't see it much at a larger level, but for us reporters, that's surely a sign. Like, I've been to Narendra Modi's rallies in 2014, where you were almost sort of overrun by people, and that seemed to be happening with Akhilesh and Rahul in these elections. So UP seemed to move in that direction, and I was, even then, I was not certain till the last, how many seats, you calculate every day, 50, less than 50, 40. And then came the exit polls, and at what point I thought, maybe we should all stop covering politics, because one has, me, my friends, the local reporters, researchers, all of them seem to have got it wrong. So it's time we fold our pens, and we should say goodbye to all this. But I'm very happy to be proven